I've loved Julia for 12 years, watching her switch boyfriends one after another. When everyone thought I could finally make the heart of this flirt settle, she blocked me for another man. Over a month later, she stood amidst a vast sea of roses, her face flushed, asking if I could give her another chance. I pulled out a bright red wedding invitation from my bag and handed it to her, smiling. I'm getting married next week. I hope you can make it. Chapter 1. Julia posted a message in our old friends group chat. Meet at the usual place tonight. I have an announcement. Joel, my closest friend, teased her. Oh, getting so formal. Is our lady player finally ready to settle down? This wasn't the first time he'd made that joke. Normally, Julia would laugh and tell him to get lost. But this time, she just replied with a single word. Yes, just one light word. Yet it dropped like a stone in still water, stirring waves of surprise. The previously quiet group chat exploded in an instant. No way. Did I read that right? Is the Queen of Heartbreak coming ashore? Did our Romeo finally endure long enough to see the light at the end of the tunnel? Allow me to deduce. Miss Lynn hasn't been dating lately, nor does she have any flirtations going on. The male lead has to be Romeo, no doubt. After all these years of his unwavering devotion, congrats to Romeo. It wasn't a secret that I liked Julia. My exception and favoritism for her had always been blatantly obvious, known to everyone. She, too, reserved her gentleness and patience solely for me. Julia didn't say anything else, as if silently acknowledging everyone's jokes about us. After all, over the years, although she changed boyfriends often, her one constant had always been me. Anyone would think that my wait had finally paid off. Chapter 2. Julia was the one who organized the gathering, yet she was the last to arrive, and following behind her was a shy, reserved young man. He was quite young, but undeniably good-looking. Perhaps feeling uneasy in a new environment with unfamiliar people, he appeared a bit nervous. He looked so much like I did 12 years ago, when I was first brought into the Lin family. The group, who had been joking and laughing moments ago, fell silent, as if someone had pressed a power-off button. We all just stared, dumbfounded, as Julia turned around and looped her arm through the young man's. Let me introduce my boyfriend, Oliver, she said. As she spoke, her gaze remained fixed on Oliver, a softness in her eyes that wouldn't fade. She looked every bit like a girl experiencing first love. Sensing the awkward atmosphere, Oliver lifted a hand and waved at us, his clean, gentle voice tinged with a hint of bashful shyness. Hello, everyone. Joel was the first to react, laughing exaggeratedly. Quite the secret. When did you get a boyfriend? As he spoke, he kept glancing at me. He tried to mask it well, but after knowing him for so many years, I immediately saw the worry in his eyes. Was he afraid I'd make a scene, or afraid I couldn't handle it? I lowered my head, swirling the drink in my glass. My mind was blank, bitterness filling my mouth. From beginning to end, Julia and I had always been somewhere above friendship but below love. She'd never given me a legitimate reason to be openly jealous. What right did I have to make a scene? Chapter 3. Over the years, Julia drifted from one relationship to another, changing boyfriends every so often, but she never formally introduced any of them to us. This action carried a certain implication that everyone understood. Julia nestled closer into Oliver's arms, smiling. We've been together for over 2 months now. Oliver's a bit shy, so please don't scare him. 12 years ago, it was the same group, the same words. Romeo's a bit shy, so please don't scare him. Back then, I had just returned from a small southern village, brought into the high-walled, prestigious Lin family estate near the capital. I was ridiculed for my imperfect Mandarin. It was Julia who held my hand and pulled me into their circle. I was 14 that year, and the girl with the radiant smile who dispelled all my confusion and fears became my guiding light. Out of consideration for my feelings, everyone's reactions were subdued. After all, with over a decade of friendship, when it came to relationships, they would naturally side with me over Oliver. Moreover, I had long been the one everyone thought would end up with Julia. The atmosphere grew heavy with silence. Oliver looked even more uncomfortable. He lowered his head and gently tugged at Julia's sleeve, whispering, "Sister, it feels like they're not very welcoming." I furrowed my brows slightly at his choice of address, feeling a slight physical discomfort. Chapter 4. When Julia and I were teenagers, her favorite prank was to sneak up behind me. She'd either grab whatever was in my hand or suddenly jump onto my back, wrapping her arms around my neck and forcing me to call her sister. She was only 2 months older than me, but she was crafty, always persistent to the point of exasperation. In the end, I was usually the one to give in. Only when my face flushed, and I begrudgingly called her sister, would she finally let me go. Back then, she was still a bit naive, maintaining a dignified air around other boys. Just as Julia was about to reassure him, there was a sudden crash of a glass breaking in the corner. It was Domingo, who never got along with me. His usually handsome face was stern, his voice laced with anger. "Julia, what the hell do you think you've been treating Romeo as all these years?" Julia's expression darkened, her gaze sweeping the room before locking onto me. Then, Her lips parted slightly. I don't know if there's been a misunderstanding, but I've only ever seen Romeo as a younger brother. Chapter 5. Only a younger brother, is it? I wondered if she'd forgotten. Last year, when we were all gathered to celebrate the new year, Joel had bought some fireworks and called for us to go outside and set them off. Julia sat lazily beside me, clutching my arm and smiling. No, Romeo from my family will stay here to keep me company. Someone nearby jeered. Since when did Romeo become part of your family? She threw a tangerine at them, laughing even harder. He's always been. Romeo is my childhood fiancé. In just a matter of months, she could look me straight in the eye and calmly call me her younger brother. I placed a hand over my heart, pressing lightly. It hurt. It was uncomfortable, but not as much as I had imagined. In fact, there was a sense of relief, as if I had finally received an answer. It felt like when I was 14, I sent what I thought was a beautifully written story to my favorite magazine, only to never hear back. Then, 12 years later, the magazine finally sent a reply saying my story hadn't been accepted. I'd simply think, oh, well, now I know. It turns out that the initial enthusiasm and longing had long since faded in the wait. My feelings for Julia were the same. It wasn't that I didn't love her anymore. I just no longer held any expectations. So, no matter the outcome, it didn't sway my emotions too much. Chapter 6. Domingo wanted to speak up for me again, but I stopped him. He shot me a glare, gritted his teeth, and spat. Useless. Then he stormed off. In this situation, it didn't feel right for me to stay either. So, I grabbed my phone from the table and followed him out, ready to leave. Just as I placed my hand on the door handle, Julia called out to me, "Romeo, come back." I turned back and gave her a smile. "Sister, you all enjoy. I'm going to check on Domingo." It was the first time in all these years that I so readily called her sister, but, judging by her expression, she didn't seem too pleased. Julia's face froze for a moment, then darkened as she repeated, "Come back." This time, I didn't listen to her. As I pushed open the door and walked out, I heard the sound of glass shattering behind me. The door closed, sealing off the noise from inside. Chapter 7. Looking for Domingo was merely an excuse to make my exit. Domingo and I never got along. In school, he'd throw balls at me during gym class, secretly cut up my art projects with scissors, hide my textbooks, and leave bugs in my desk. As we grew older, we still couldn't stand each other. Even though he spoke up for me this time, I didn't feel inclined to mend our relationship. I was planning to head home, but as I reached the front entrance, I spotted Domingo leaning against the wall, smoking. When he saw me approaching, he put out his cigarette and tossed it in the trash. "I came with Joel," he said. "Are you heading back now? Mind giving me a lift?" I sighed, deciding against turning him down. After 12 years of hanging out, this was one of the rare occasions we were alone together without arguing. I dropped him off at his house. He stayed seated, not moving. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "That Oliver kid, he reminds me a lot of you back then." But what did that matter? No matter how similar he was, he could never be me, and I could never be him. Unwilling to continue this conversation, I opened the car door and shooed him out. Ignoring his muttered curses, I pressed lightly on the gas and turned into the adjacent villa. My family lived next door to Domingo's, and beyond that, was Julia's family's home. In this neighborhood, all the residents were wealthy or influential. Chapter 8. Just as I parked the car, Domingo called and told me to check my WeChat. When I opened it, the group chat was buzzing with red packets and money transfers flying everywhere. Julia had added Oliver to the group, and everyone was sending red packets to congratulate her on finding a boyfriend. I joined in, sending my own red packet, but just as it successfully sent, Julia kicked me out of the group. Immediately after, she sent me a private message. "Sorry, Romeo. Your presence makes Oliver uncomfortable. Let's not stay in touch for now." I pressed my lips together, feeling as if someone had punched me squarely in the chest. After a moment of thought, I replied with a simple, "All right," but as soon as I sent it, I was met with a glaring red exclamation mark. Julia had deleted me. From youthful days to brilliant years, 12 years of knowing each other had been defeated by her 2-month relationship. I stared at that exclamation mark for a long time, dazed. My eyes burned, but no tears came. The old Julia would shake me, smiling as she said, "Romeo, other than my parents, no one is more important to me than you." Now, this Julia told me, "Your presence makes Oliver uncomfortable. Let's not stay in touch." How ridiculous. Chapter 9. I liked Julia, but I never clung to her or crossed any boundaries. I never even said or did anything flirtatious. Whenever I found out she had a boyfriend, I'd proactively keep my distance from her. I was afraid my affection would become a burden to her. Yet, whenever I pulled away even slightly, it would annoy her. Julia's first boyfriend was actually my college roommate, a guy who was well aware of my feelings for her. Later, the two of them walked hand in hand before me, my roommate grinning broadly. He seemed to have forgotten all the times we'd shared drinks, looking genuinely grateful as he said, "Romeo, thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have won over Julia. That day, with the wind blowing hard, I stood on the tree-lined path outside the library, feeling like a complete fool. It was only then that I realized he had befriended me from the start just to get close to Julia. After all, how many teenage boys could resist a campus heartthrob who was both beautiful and from a wealthy family? I distanced myself from both him and Julia. In the end, their relationship lasted only 3 days. When he returned, he was furious, red-eyed, and demanded, "Julia dumped me. Are you happy now?" I found it baffling. I hadn't done anything, so why was he asking me? But since he asked, I decided to tell the truth. Yeah, I'm happy. Chapter 10. That night, Julia insisted on taking me out for a big meal. She teased me with a mischievous grin. "You've been ignoring me for 3 days. Can you stop being mad already?" I earnestly explained, "I'm not mad. It's just that now you're dating someone. We should maintain some distance. It's better for everyone. But I only agreed to go out with him because you two were close. If Romeo likes him, I like him. If Romeo doesn't like him, I don't either." She said it with absolute confidence. Afterward, whenever she dated, she avoided anyone with connections to me. She didn't even bring her boyfriends around us publicly. But the circle of high society in the capital isn't that big or small. When she took her boyfriends to events, running into acquaintances was inevitable. Even if she didn't say anything, news of her relationships would eventually reach me through others. During holiday gatherings, someone would joke, "You've had so many boyfriends. When will you bring one for us to meet?" She'd place a shrimp in my bowl and casually take the one I'd peeled, replying nonchalantly, "They're not quite at that level yet." Some of her boyfriends added me on social media, either pleading or cursing, all with the intent of getting me to stay away from Julia. After it happened enough times, I understood, even if I did nothing, just my existence was a sin. So, when Julia decided to cut ties for Oliver's sake, I respected her decision. But why did she have to kick me out of the group? Chapter 11. An hour later, Joel kicked open my bedroom door. Seeing that I was all right, he scratched his head. "Man, I was worried you'd do something drastic, so I came to check on you." I glared at him, pressing my lips together without responding. A few minutes later, he cautiously asked, "Romeo, Julia's just temporarily confused. We can all see how much that Oliver resembles. Once she comes to her senses, could you give her another chance?" What he didn't say was probably that Oliver reminded him of me from back then. I frowned slightly, not directly answering his question. "Joel, I want to go back south to visit my grandma's place." Chapter 12. When my mom was pregnant with me, my dad's business hit a rough patch and nearly went bankrupt. They consulted a feng shui master who pinpointed the issue to my mom's pregnancy. The master said I was destined to bring misfortune, which would affect my dad's financial luck. But my mom was already 9 months pregnant, close to her due date. Even if she had wanted to, there was no turning back. So, as soon as I was born, I was sent south to my grandmother's. My grandmother named me Romeo, saying she hoped I'd live in peace year after year. But when I was 14, she passed away, leaving me all alone. I used to think, well, at least I had Julia. Even if we weren't lovers, I was always her number one choice. And that seemed like enough. But reality gave me a harsh slap in the face. Chapter 13. It was the rainy season. The misty landscape of the south was shrouded in a light drizzle. Holding an umbrella, I stepped onto the familiar cobblestone path. At the end of the road stood an old 3-story building, the home where I'd spent 14 years of my life. My mom always said my grandmother was stubborn. Even though her daughter married into wealth, she insisted on staying in the countryside, clinging to that old house. But it was this stubborn woman who gave me the happiest childhood. The rain was light. Vendors meandered through the streets on tricycles, calling out on loudspeakers, "Fresh bayberries, fresh bayberries." A man from the small villa next door came out with an umbrella, calling the vendor over. Seeing me by the road, he asked in surprise, "Romeo, what brings you back? It's not the Memorial Day yet." I forced a smile. I missed home. Came back to stay a few days. He glanced at the suitcase I was holding, a flash of sympathy crossing his eyes. "Kid, why'd you come all by yourself? Your grandma's old house hasn't been lived in for ages, and it's been raining these past days. It must be damp inside. How about staying at our place for now? Your sister Anna is hardly ever home, so you'd be great company for me." With that, he grabbed my suitcase and, cheerfully holding my hand, led me back to the villa. Chapter 14. I was put in his daughter Anna's room, watching Uncle Sue bustling in and out. I finally understood what it meant to be overwhelmed by hospitality. After several refusals, he looked at me with such hurt, asking if I thought his home was too modest, that I gave in. Anna's room was clean and simple. The most prominent feature was a huge bookshelf, filled with books, models, trophies, and certificates. It suited her well, the overachiever from childhood to college. Anna was 2 years older than me. We weren't exactly close, but we weren't strangers either. Aside from the bond of growing up together, we were also university alumni. She had a scholarship to the country's top university, while I got in due to my local residency. That evening, Domingo called me, through the phone. His voice sounded dull. Joel said you went back south. I hummed in response. After a long pause, he muttered, why didn't you tell me? I could use a break too. I had long since picked up on Domingo's feelings for Julia as we moved beyond our teenage years. Standing by the window, looking at the endless drizzle, I rejected him without hesitation. No need. A brotherly bonding trip isn't really our style. Domingo ground his teeth, called me an idiot, and hung up promptly. Chapter 15. In the few years that had passed, she had grown from a simple, innocent girl into a graceful young woman. Anna hesitated for a moment, her eyes reflecting emotions I couldn't quite read. It's been a while, she said, her voice as lively and pleasant as I remembered. I smiled at her. It has. Since the owner of the room had returned, I naturally had no reason to stay. I said my goodbyes to Uncle Sue, who frowned, thinking it over. You haven't been back for so long, and your grandmother's old house isn't exactly stocked. Why don't we do this? Anna can move in with you to help take care of things. I was about to decline when Anna responded first. All right, let me go with you and help clean up first. Chapter 16. It didn't seem appropriate for a man and woman to stay alone together, but I couldn't refuse the father and daughter. So, Anna and I headed to my grandmother's house. Although it hadn't been lived in for a while, I hired people every year to inspect and repair the house. Aside from a layer of dust, it was in decent condition. After we finished cleaning, I sat on the steps outside, staring off into the distance. The sky was clear and bright after the rain, large white clouds floating against the deep blue backdrop. It was a rare sight compared to the smog-choked skies of the capital. Anna handed me a bottle of water, and I looked up, smiling. Why did you come back all of a sudden? She smiled back. My dad tricked me into it. What about you? She asked in return. Anna was undeniably beautiful. The warm sunlight fell on her, as if dusting her in a light layer of golden powder. Unlike Julia's striking and bold appearance, Anna's features were gentle and elegant, radiating an air of scholarly charm. I looked away, choosing the most suitable words. Healing. Chapter 17. Life in the countryside moves slowly. I gradually adapted to the polite and peaceful cohabitation with Anna. She was a considerate roommate. Afraid I'd get bored, she brought over a stack of extracurricular books for me to pass the time. She even somehow managed to find a puppy that looked just like the one my grandmother used to have. I squatted down, petting the dog, my heart filled with a mix of emotions. Anna stood quietly beside me. After a long time, I heard her say, Romeo, are you feeling hurt? It was a familiar phrase, one that stirred memories buried deep in time. When I was little, the local kids often mocked me for being a parentless child or, worse, an illegitimate kid. At that age, I was soft-hearted and could only hide somewhere to cry. Every time I cried, Anna would always find me. She'd gently pat my head and ask, Romeo, are you feeling hurt? Gradually, fewer and fewer people bullied me, until one day, I saw Anna cornering a boy who'd thrown rocks at me, giving him a solid beating in the dead end of an alley, and finally understood why. This skinny, delicate girl had become a fierce little warrior to protect me. It seemed I'd been very attached to Anna before I left here. How did we grow distant over time? Chapter 18. A few days later, Joel sent me a short video. In the video, Julia was slumped on the ground, clutching a bottle and calling out, Romeo, Romeo. Beside her, Oliver's brows were tightly furrowed, his expression dark. Under the video, there were two messages. Romeo, when are you coming back? Julia's drunk and keeps demanding to see you. She's at the flower garden making a scene, and we don't know what to do with her. The flower garden was the old haunt Daniel had mentioned last time, the most exclusive club in the capital, owned by the Lin family. Julia often drank too much when she went out, and every time, I'd be the only one she'd follow home peacefully. Even drunk, she'd still recognize me. I once asked her if she wasn't afraid of mistaking someone else for me. She'd shake her head and pout. How could I ever mistake you? You're the one and only Romeo. Chapter 19. It was these seemingly insignificant moments that fueled my feelings for her over 12 years. Seeing even a hint of hope was enough to keep me going all this time, wasn't it? I replied. From now on, don't tell me about her anymore. As soon as I sent the message, Joel's call came through. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Hey, Romeo. Julia hasn't been doing well these past few days. Before he could finish, there was a burst of shouting in the background. Julia, behave yourself and stop grabbing my phone. The next second, Julia's voice came through the receiver. Hello, is that Romeo? When are you coming to get me? I wasn't feeling well the past couple of days, and you didn't come to see me. I haven't seen you in so long. Her voice grew softer and more uncertain, as if tinged with a sob. Romeo, I miss you. Without a second thought, I hung up. Chapter 20. That night, Oliver sent me a friend request, saying he had something to show me. I had no interest in whatever he wanted to show, but he wouldn't give up, repeatedly trying to add me. By the 20th attempt or so, I accepted. He sent a photo. In the hotel room, Julia lay on a large bed, eyes closed, her dark hair spread out, looking like an alluring temptress. Oliver was lying beside her. Brother Romeo, Julia and I know you like her too, but Julia only sees you as family and habit. She told me herself that I'm the only one she loves. She got drunk tonight because she was jealous I talked to another girl and came looking for you. So please don't misunderstand. Reading through his long message, I felt only disinterest. My 12 years of feelings had ended the moment she kicked me out of the group. Not loving her anymore wasn't as hard as I'd thought. I calmly replied, "Oh, wish you both happiness." Chapter 21. It rained continuously for several days. Anna liked to brew a pot of tea and sit by the window, writing or sketching. Meanwhile, I lay on the couch with a book. The puppy she'd gifted me was curled up at my feet, quiet. I named it Pudding. During this time, my relationship with her grew closer. Outside, there was the sound of rain pattering. Inside, the scratching of her pen on paper and the occasional rustle of my book filled the air. It made me think of phrases like peaceful times and serenity in the passing years. A sudden, urgent knock broke the calm. Outside stood Anna's neighbor, his face full of worry. "Anna, your father just fainted. You need to go see him." Anna froze, her slender figure swaying before she rushed out like a whirlwind. I quickly followed. Uncle Sue had always looked after my grandmother and me when she was alive. He helped us a lot, and even now, he often brought us home-cooked food. Chapter 22. Uncle Sue lay in bed, his face pale and sickly. Anna frowned and asked, "Dad, are you okay? Should we go to the hospital?" Despite her effort to control it, there was a tremor in her voice. Uncle Sue glanced at me standing behind her and let out a long sigh. "I wasn't planning to tell you this." He waved me closer and pulled a piece of paper from under his pillow. "My time is running out. My biggest worry in life is Anna. Romeo, I know you're a good kid. I want to entrust her to you." The paper bore the words, "Late-stage cancer." Anna snatched the paper, her frown deepening as she read it. She stayed silent for a long time before saying, "It might be a misdiagnosis. Let's go for another checkup soon." Chapter 23. Despite her words, Anna grew quieter day by day. When we were children, she would find me hiding somewhere to cry. Now, it was me looking for her quietly weeping in secret. When I found her, she tilted her head up, her nose red, eyes still misty. Seeing her like this made my heart ache. "If you need to cry, just let it out. Don't hold back." I sat beside her, raising my hand, hesitating for a moment before gently placing it on her head. Just as she'd comforted me when we were young, I softly patted her hair. It was nearing the end of June, and perhaps due to our heavy hearts, this summer felt hotter than usual. She looked up at the sky, choking up. "The reason I came back this time, it's because my dad told me he was sick." When I got home, he brushed it off with a joke. I thought he was just kidding. I stayed quiet, knowing she needed someone to listen more than someone to talk to. "Romeo, thank you for everything these past few days. Don't take what my dad said too seriously. I'm not your responsibility, and you shouldn't feel obligated to take care of me or put your marriage on the line for the sake of old family ties." Uncle Sue's last wish had been for me to marry Anna. I looked off into the distance, silent for a long time. I couldn't say exactly what my feelings for Anna were. Being with her felt comfortable, even if we didn't say or do anything. Seeing her cry made me want to ease her pain, to make her smile. It seemed like making her my responsibility wouldn't be a burden. There was even a hint of longing. After a while, I heard myself say, "Anna, let's get married." Chapter 24. Before I was 14, my parents were strangers who only appeared on holidays. After 14, they were family who just asked if I had enough money. Did they love me? Probably. But the emotional gap of 14 years meant they didn't know how to get close to me. Every time I saw my mom warmly interacting with my younger brother, 5 years my junior, I'd comfort myself with that thought. When my parents heard I was getting married, my mom just asked about Anna's background and agreed. The wedding was set for a little over a month later. Anna wanted to keep it simple, but I refused. Although I couldn't give her a lavish wedding, she deserved everything a bride should have. Since I'd decided to marry her, I wouldn't let her feel a hint of grievance. Chapter 25. After discussing wedding details, we headed back home. A blue Pagani Huayra was parked outside. Joel stepped out, his sharp features worn with fatigue. Dark circles under his eyes and stubble on his chin hinted he'd driven all night to get here. He glanced at Anna beside me, frowning. "Is she the one you're marrying?" As my close friend, he was the only one I'd told about the wedding. I nodded, and Joel's frown deepened. "Romeo, we need to talk." Anna left us the space, as composed and considerate as always. Joel watched her walk away, still frowning. "Are you sure?" Following his gaze, I softened my voice without realizing it. "Yes, I'm sure." Chapter 26. Joel sighed, trying to persuade me gently. "Romeo, marriage isn't a game. You've loved Julia for so many years. I can't believe you'd fall for someone else so quickly. Julia hurt you, but that's no reason to hurt another innocent girl. Ask yourself, do you truly love her?" I paused, images of my recent days with Anna flashing through my mind. Life with her was simple yet steady. She didn't talk much, but every morning, she'd prepare breakfast before I woke up. wearing a cartoon apron that didn't suit her elegant demeanor. She'd call me to wash up for breakfast with a smile. Little Pudding would wag his tail, circling around her over and over. The two of them together painted a picture of a quiet, homely life. In that moment, everything became clear. Turning to Joel, I patted his shoulder, answering with resolve, "Don't worry, I'd never hurt Anna. Do I love her? It feels like I do." Chapter 27. After Joel left, I got busy with wedding preparations. The date was approaching fast, and there was a lot to arrange. Joel still messaged me regularly, occasionally mentioning Julia. He told me Julia had gotten drunk and was manipulated by Oliver, who used compromising photos of her to pressure her into marriage. The incident caused a big stir, even making the news. The Lynn family patriarch was furious, ordering Julia to step down from her role in the family business and reflect on her actions. Julia, who had been pampered her entire life, wasn't used to such hardships. Feeling down, she started drinking, and whenever she got drunk, she'd shout for me, refusing to listen to anyone else. Joel didn't tell me this directly, Domingo did. "Domingo, after all these years, can't you forgive her just this once? Seeing her like this, doesn't it break your heart?" I didn't reply. Heartbreak. For 12 years, she knew how I felt. She gave me hope while constantly dating others who ever cared about my heart. Julia had tried adding me several times lately, but I ignored her. She'd called from different numbers, and I blocked them all. After she kicked me out for Oliver, there was no way we could even be friends. Some wounds can't be undone. Once love is shattered, mending it is no simple matter. Besides, I already have Anna now. Chapter 28. I saw Julia again over a month later. Domingo messaged me, saying he was in a nearby town and asked to meet on the busiest street. Before leaving, I stuffed a stack of wedding invitations into my bag, hoping he could help distribute them back home. The wedding preparations with Anna were nearly complete, and Uncle Sue's health continued to decline, though it was evident he was genuinely happy. Our marriage was likely the only splash of color in an otherwise gray season. Today, the pedestrian street's flower beds were filled with bright red roses, decorated with ribbons and balloons. Two young girls passing by chattered excitedly. "Wow, which rich guy is proposing? It's so romantic." I heard it's actually a beautiful girl confessing her love. There's a whole sea of roses up ahead. They were flown in. Someone even saw a small plane this morning. Must be loaded. Let's go see. The crowd surged toward the spot where Domingo and I had planned to meet. I frowned, starting to piece things together. A couple of days ago, I'd heard that the Lynn family had given Oliver a $5 million breakup fee. Seeing no future with a wealthy family, he took the money and left. With my bag in hand, I moved with the crowd toward the meeting point. Chapter 29. Sure enough, the place overflowing with roses was near the cafe where we were supposed to meet. The surrounding street was packed with layers of people. Occasionally, I heard girls gasp. "The girl holding the flowers in the middle is stunning. And those guys next to her are handsome too. I love the one on the far right, he's got that bad boy vibe. So appealing. It's like a scene from a romance novel, beautiful heroine and her handsome knights. I wonder what the leading man looks like to have such a beautiful girl confessing publicly." Domingo stood outside the crowd, and when he saw me, he excitedly pulled me into the throng. Make way, the leading man has arrived." Quickly, a path opened up. At the end of the path stood Julia, nervous yet hopeful, holding a large bouquet of Juliets. Domingo released my hand and nudged me toward her. Compared to me, his dedication to Julia probably deserved more respect. Chapter 30. Romeo. Julia called my name, a blush spreading across her delicate face. Amid the crowd's cheers, she slowly walked toward me. Behind her, our old friends wore expressions of delight, except for Joel on the far right, who leaned lazily against the wall with his arms crossed, watching the scene unfold with a smirk. Seeing me, he raised an eyebrow, setting off a wave of excited screams from the surrounding girls. Julia bit her lip, shyly holding the flowers out to me. "Romeo, I'm sorry. I know what I did before was terrible. It wasn't until you left that I realized how much more important you are to me than I ever imagined. Will you give me another chance? Let me make up for my mistakes." I looked down, opened my bag, and pulled out an invitation to hand to her. "I'm getting married next week. I hope you can come." Chapter 31. Julia froze, the expensive roses slipping from her hands, petals scattering. She stammered, "Romeo, stop joking. This isn't funny." As she spoke, her eyes reddened. I ignored her, sidestepping to hand out the invitations to the others, who were equally stunned. "Remember to come to my wedding." I'd only told my parents and Joel about the wedding. Clearly, they hadn't spread the news. Julia rushed over, grabbing the invitations I had just handed out and tearing them to pieces, throwing them to the ground. Her red-rimmed eyes glared at me. "Romeo, I just said it. This joke isn't funny." I didn't expect Julia's reaction to be so extreme. Tearing up as she spoke, she began shredding every invitation in my bag and grabbed my arm, trying to pull me away. I broke free of her grip, smiling faintly. I said, There are still plenty of things to prepare for the wedding, and my wife is waiting for me to return. I'll take my leave. Chapter 32. 2 days later, Julia bought the house next door, and her flashy, limited edition Koenigsegg looked wildly out of place parked outside the modest home. She waited for me outside every day, begging for another chance. Growing tired of her persistence, I sternly told her, "I'm about to get married. Please stop bothering me." She bit her lip, her eyes immediately welling up with tears. A few moments later, she slowly crouched down, clutching her head and sobbing. "Romeo, I know I was wrong. Just give me one more chance. I'm begging you. Please, Romeo, don't be so heartless." This once proud woman humbled herself, sinking into the dust to beg for my forgiveness. Watching her sobbing on the ground, I felt nothing. Heartless? Then I didn't mind being a little more so. I bent down slightly. "Sorry, Julia, but your presence makes Anna uncomfortable. Let's not stay in touch." I returned the words she'd once said to me, word for word. Chapter 33. The wedding proceeded as planned. Outside, a line of wedding cars stretched down the road. Just before getting into the car, I saw Julia standing outside. She was dressed in a brand new white wedding gown, with exquisitely done makeup. Ignoring her, I lowered my head to get into the car, but she rushed over and grabbed my arm. Her once clear voice was now hoarse, as if scraped by sand. "Romeo, are you doing this to get back at me?" Her red-rimmed eyes tried to hold a smile. "You can punish me however you want. Just please don't marry someone else." I looked at her calmly and replied, "No, this isn't to get back at you. I'm marrying Anna simply because I want to marry her." Tears fell down her face, and her grip on my sleeve tightened. But you don't love her, do you?" I pushed her hand away, smiling faintly. "If I didn't love her, why would I marry her? Julia, after all these years, you should know me at least that well." With that, I paid her no further attention and got into the car. As the procession pulled away, I could still see her lonely figure standing there in the rearview mirror, wrapped in white lace, a scene like a farce. Chapter 34. Married life wasn't much different from before. To take care of Uncle Sue, we moved back to the little villa. Anna slept on the bed, while I slept on a mattress on the floor, until I was certain of her feelings. I wanted to give her enough respect. Joel still kept in touch occasionally, chatting about life and checking in on me. He never brought up Julia again. I learned about Julia's father being ousted from the board through the news. Oliver was ruthless, albeit lacking a sense of legality. He copied several of Julia's bidding documents and sold them to Lynn's competitors. Business is like a battlefield, and the Lynn Corporation took a severe hit, suffering significant losses. With no other choice, Lynn's father had to sell off his shares to cover the gap. Although he had Oliver imprisoned, he was no longer the company's largest shareholder, because it was Julia's actions that caused the mess. Other shareholders who had long harbored grievances took the opportunity to join forces and strip him of his position on the board. After reading this, I merely sighed, choosing not to inquire further. In a way, it seemed like a case of a daughter paying for her father's sins. Chapter 35. Uncle Sue ultimately didn't make it through the winter. Anna handled the funeral arrangements with an almost eerie calmness, so calm it was heartbreaking. Having been raised by her father alone, they naturally shared a deep bond. Maybe it was precisely because she lacked a mother that she took such good care of me, the child who was often bullied for his absent parents. Over 6 months into our marriage, for the first time, I held her in my arms. She curled up, sobbing uncontrollably. "Romeo, I don't have a father anymore." I gently patted her back, choking back my own tears to comfort her. "You still have me. From now on, I'll be here with you, Anna, for the rest of our lives. Let's walk this path together, taking care of each other and keeping each other warm." Chapter 36. Because of Uncle Sue, we'd stayed in this southern town for a while, but now, it was time to return to the capital. While packing, Pudding trotted over and dropped a diary in front of me like a treasure, covered in cobwebs. It seemed he had dug it out from some forgotten corner. Curious, I opened it to find years' worth of notes, chronicling a girl's quiet, enduring love. It turned out that all those years I hadn't known, a gentle, reserved girl had been silently in love with me. Anna finished packing her things and came over to ask if I needed any help. She caught sight of me flipping through the diary. "You saw it?" she asked, a shy and slightly anxious tone in her voice. I looked up, blinking away the moisture in my eyes, and smiled at her. "What a coincidence. I like you, too. Our relationship may not be filled with wild, passionate romance, but marriage is about life's little details. Who says that a quiet, steady love isn't life itself?"